Pam Bondi didn't just ignite a political controversy, she set off a nationwide moment of reckoning. At first, she told the public that the Epstein files were sitting on her desk, strongly suggesting she had access to documents tied to one of the most secretive and disturbing scandals in modern history. That statement alone sent shockwaves across the country. But then, without any clear explanation, everything changed. Suddenly, Bondi claimed there was nothing meaningful in those files at all. She refused to release the documents that Americans from every political background have been demanding for years. Almost overnight, the official who once spoke about transparency became the symbol of a shutdown, one that feels less like careful review and far more like a deliberate effort to stop the truth from coming out. That sense of obstruction exploded onto the House floor. During a Rules Committee meeting, Democrats repeatedly offered motions to allow a vote that would actually release the Epstein files to the public. Each time, Republicans on the committee voted them down. The reason the issue won't be immediately considered by the full House, even after the rule passes, comes down to just 9 Republicans on the Rules Committee who voted no. Now, with the vote on the previous question, the entire Republican conference is being given another opportunity, possibly the final one this week, to allow a vote that would release the Epstein files. As it stands, the resolution Republicans approved in committee is little more than a political statement. It has no legal force. It doesn't compel anything. It's a non-binding move designed to create headlines while avoiding real action. Republicans argue they are addressing public concern, but the reality is far different. The measure they passed won't even reach the House floor this week, and there's no clear commitment for when it ever will. Meanwhile, the bipartisan bill being offered tells a completely different story. If the previous question is defeated, that bill would actually release the Epstein files with the full force of law behind it. It wouldn't be symbolic. It wouldn't be performative. It would be binding, enforceable, and real. So the question becomes unavoidable. Why stop this bill from getting a vote? What is it that Republicans are so afraid of? With that, a request was made for unanimous consent to place the amendment text into the official record, along with all supporting material, ahead of the vote on the previous question. Time was then yielded to the congressman from California, the sponsor of the bill. With no objection, he was recognized to speak. He made the point clear and direct. Americans, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike want the Epstein files released with victim identities fully protected. He explained the situation in plain terms. Knowing many people don't understand how Washington operates behind closed doors, he laid it out simply. A bipartisan bill was introduced to release all Epstein-related files while safeguarding victims. That bill already has 10 Republican co-sponsors, including prominent MAGA-aligned lawmakers such as Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Tim Burchett. This is not a partisan stunt. It's a cross-party effort with real support. And according to the sponsor, the votes are already there. Enough to pass the bill tonight. If leadership would simply allow it to reach the floor, what actually happened next exposed the real reason for the delay. Inside the Rules Committee, leadership didn't want to vote that night because they knew they would lose. They knew too many of their own members were ready to vote in favor of releasing the Epstein files. What made the situation even more absurd was the so-called non-binding resolution they put forward. You would think they would at least allow a vote on something non-binding? But they wouldn't even do that. Why? Because they didn't want to risk upsetting Donald Trump even slightly. They refused to allow a vote on the non-binding resolution that very night. Choosing political comfort over transparency. At that point, the president began paying close attention. Not only because Congressman Thomas Massie, one of his favored lawmakers, was involved, but because the pressure from the public had reached a boiling point. The president responded by saying, essentially, "Fine, let's release it." He instructed the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, to pursue the release and ask the courts to make the grand jury testimony public. But here's the problem with that move. The grand jury testimony mainly focuses on Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It does not expose the wealthy and powerful men who abused, exploited, and then discarded young women. Those individuals remain shielded. On top of that, courts rarely release grand jury testimony at all. Still, the president understands something very clearly. If there were a vote that night, the House would overwhelmingly vote to release the Epstein files. As time ran out, lawmakers scrambled for seconds on the clock. 10 seconds. 30 seconds? Every moment mattered. And the core question became impossible to ignore. Whose side are you on today? Democrats made their position clear. They said they stand with the people. They stand with the children. There are 10 Republicans who also chose that side. But the entire Democratic caucus stood united. Republican leadership, meanwhile, chose to protect rich and powerful men who abused children. And that, lawmakers argued, is morally wrong. That contrast drew a hard line in the sand and made the stakes unmistakable. That single reversal triggered a chain reaction that pulled Congress, the media, and the American public into a full-scale battle over truth and power. One question loomed larger than all the rest: what is really inside the Epstein files, and who is terrified of those documents becoming public? Congressman Ro Khanna refused to let that question fade away. While others tried to dodge the controversy, he charged straight into it. He introduced an amendment on the House floor demanding the full release of the Epstein files, no redactions, no delays, no secret negotiations. Just the truth, exactly as it exists. But the amendment itself wasn't what sent shockwaves through Capitol Hill. It was the demand for a recorded vote. A vote that would permanently lock every lawmaker's position into the public record. A vote that would force politicians to choose between shielding powerful elites or standing with the people they promised to serve. In a place where secrecy is power, that move felt like tearing the lid off Washington's most guarded vault. And from the moment that amendment hit the floor, the tension inside the chamber shifted sharply and unmistakably. This wasn't routine political theater or empty posturing. What unfolded was a direct challenge to a long-protected network of elites, insiders and power brokers who had spent years keeping Jeffrey Epstein's connections sealed off from public view. The moment that protection was threatened, quiet conversations turned into visible panic. Staffers rushed through hallways. Committee rooms buzzed with frantic activity. Lawmakers understood exactly what was at stake. A yes vote could unravel careers, alliances, and carefully built reputations. But a no vote risked exposing them as defenders of a system that shields predators while everyday Americans are kept in the dark. That's where the real battle began. Khanna reduced the entire fight to a simple moral choice. Whose side are you on? Are you standing with the wealthy and well-connected, or with transparency, accountability, and the belief that no one, no matter how powerful, should be beyond scrutiny? His argument landed hard because it went far beyond one scandal. It spoke to a growing national belief that powerful people live by a different set of rules, and that institutions exist more to protect them than to serve the public. The Epstein files themselves aren't just controversial, they're explosive. For years, rumors have circulated about who might be named inside them. Business leaders, global figures, politicians, celebrities, people with enough influence to make serious problems quietly disappear. None of those claims are proven, but the speculation alone has driven deep public mistrust. And when officials publicly promise transparency only to reverse course later, that mistrust grows even stronger. That this was the environment Khanna stepped into, a country already skeptical, already angry, and already convinced that something major is being hidden behind locked doors. That brings the focus back to Pam Bondi, because her sudden reversal became the center of public outrage. She wasn't just another official weighing in. She had openly acknowledged that the Epstein files were in her possession. She had strongly suggested they would be released. Then, as pressure mounted, the door slammed shut. No explanation, no details, just silence. Khanna voiced what millions were already thinking. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate effort to stop the truth from coming out. Once he said it out loud, the debate exploded into a national spectacle. The tension peaked when the House Rules Committee took up Khanna's amendment. This was the decisive moment. the point where the fight would either move to the full House or die behind closed doors. Every Democrat voted in favor of releasing the Epstein files, standing firmly for transparency. Then came a surprise. One Republican, Ralph Norman, broke ranks and voted yes as well. His decision sent a clear signal. The wall of resistance was starting to crack. But that momentum didn't last long. 7 Republicans voted to block the amendment entirely. Another Republican failed to appear for the vote, adding even more fuel to online speculation and intensifying public frustration. And just like that, the opportunity for a full House floor vote disappeared, not because the proposal failed, but because it was never allowed to happen in the first place. The committee shut it down before Congress could even debate it. Members were denied the chance to go on the record. And the American public was denied the right to see where their elected representatives truly stood. Khanna called the move exactly what it looked like: a deliberate effort to block transparency and protect the same small group of powerful insiders who benefited from Epstein's silence for years. For millions of Americans watching from the outside, the optics were impossible to dismiss. If there is truly nothing in the Epstein files worth hiding, why are lawmakers working so aggressively to keep them buried? Why block a simple vote that asks for openness? And why prevent the one process that would permanently record every lawmaker's position for the public to see? Instead of calming tensions, the committee's decision poured gasoline on the fire. Public trust, already strained, fractured even further. The anger quickly spread beyond the Epstein case itself. This moment appeared to confirm a deeper fear: that government procedures can be manipulated behind closed doors to protect influential figures. The fight over the files became a symbol of something far bigger, a system that shields the privileged while ordinary citizens are left without answers. Transparency wasn't just delayed. It was denied. Inside Republican ranks, the vote exposed divisions that had been quietly building for months. Some conservative lawmakers openly called for full disclosure, arguing that releasing the files was the only way to restore public trust. Others avoided the vote altogether, stayed silent, or brushed off the issue publicly. That split intensified the sense that this battle wasn't merely political. It was personal. It involved reputations, potential exposure, and the consequences that could follow if the documents ever saw the light of day. Khanna seized the moment and pushed even harder. He made it clear this wasn't the end. He vowed to reintroduce similar amendments again and again, weekly, monthly, however long it took. He revealed that other lawmakers were already drafting their own resolutions, determined to force Congress into transparency. As more representatives began breaking their silence, the movement gained momentum. For the first time in years, the balance felt like it was shifting, but Khanna also addressed the underlying fear driving resistance. Critics warned that releasing investigative materials could set a dangerous precedent, potentially harming future cases or violating long-standing protocols. He acknowledged those concerns but argued this case was anything but ordinary. This wasn't a routine investigation. It involved international networks, potential national security implications, and officials who publicly promised openness only to reverse course. In his view, the circumstances demanded an extraordinary response, one strong enough to finally bring the truth into the open, and for millions of Americans, his words landed with force. Because beneath the political theater and nonstop headlines, the core issue is trust, or more accurately, the growing absence of it. Every time officials reverse their statements, people become more convinced something is being concealed. Every time a vote is blocked, suspicion deepens. And every time the issue resurfaces, the gap between everyday citizens and those in power widens even more. Khanna argues that transparency is the only path to restoring that broken trust. Not partial disclosures. Not carefully selected releases. Full transparency. He maintains that victims deserve real answers, the public deserves honesty, and the government has a duty to prove it is not protecting individuals who used wealth and influence to escape accountability. Regardless of political affiliation, that message resonates across party lines, and that's what makes this moment so striking. What's becoming increasingly clear is that the fight over the Epstein files is reshaping the political landscape itself. This isn't breaking down along traditional Democrat versus Republican lines. Instead, a new divide is emerging: secrecy versus openness, insiders versus outsiders, those shielded by power versus those left in the dark. It's not just a reckoning with the Epstein case, it's a confrontation with a culture of political protectionism that many Americans believe has defined Washington for decades, and hanging over all of it is one unavoidable question. If the Epstein files truly contain nothing damaging, why are they treated like radioactive material? Why invite public outrage? Why accept political fallout? Why block votes, reverse public promises, and shut down debate? The resistance itself has become the strongest signal that what's inside those documents could shake powerful institutions to their core. As public anger grows and more lawmakers begin to speak out, Khanna's push gains strength. He has made it clear he isn't backing down, and he's urging the American people not to either. This fight goes far beyond a single scandal. It's about restoring faith in a government many believe has stopped working for them. So the pressure continues. More amendments will come. More confrontations are ahead. And the demand for transparency is only getting louder. Whether the files are released next week, next month, or after yet another standoff, one thing is certain: Washington cannot hide from this forever. Truth has a way of surfacing, especially when millions of people refuse to let it be buried. Thank you for watching. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really happening, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss updates as this story develops. Your support helps us keep asking hard questions and bringing you facts others would rather keep hidden. Stay tuned, there's much more ahead.